Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user Mama of4232. Would I be the a-hole if I called the little girl's mother to ask why my son wasn't invited to her birthday? I, 28 female, have twin 5-year-old boys, Jude and Jonah. They go to a private Jewish kindergarten where it's very customary to invite the whole class to birthday parties. It might be even a school rule, but I don't think I'm going to take this to the school. Jude and Jonah are very well-mannered and reserved. Obviously, I am biased, but they've always gotten along well with all of their peers and never gotten into any drama. Jude is definitely a slow reader and we've gotten him a tutor, but it's still very hard for him. At our synagogue, the bathroom signs just say men and women with no little picture, and there are single bathrooms. 2 weeks ago, Jude walked into the women's by accident, and I guess the door wasn't locked correctly because he walked in on this woman named Jess, who is the mother of a little girl in his class. He says he just saw her on the toilet and ran out, closed the door, and said he was sorry. Jude immediately came up to me and told me, and he was very embarrassed. I told him it wasn't a big deal and he should just remember to knock next time, and the longer word says women. He said he would and that he thought it would be a stalled bathroom like most public bathrooms. And that's fair, so I left it there. Jess came up to talk to me afterward and told me that he needed to be punished. She said it was extremely inappropriate. I assured her he didn't know and wouldn't do it again. But she said there's no way he can't read men and women, and that her daughter could, and told me I had to nip this behavior in the bud. I often feel talked down to because of my age by other parents at the school, so I just said I would take care of it and leave it there. On Friday, her daughter was handing out birthday invites and gave one to Jonah, but not Jude. They both asked her why and said her mom said not to give him one and wouldn't tell her why. Jude cried the whole rest of the day and wouldn't tell anyone why because he didn't want to be a tattletale. I asked Jude if anything else had happened between the two of them, and he promised me it didn't and said they'd even been playing together at recess this whole week, and her daughter was trying to cheer him up by suggesting ways to sneak him in. I'm honestly livid. I wouldn't care if she had given neither of them an invite, but giving one twin and not the other is incredibly rude and passive-aggressive. I'm considering calling her and talking about it because I think it's ridiculous to hold this much of a grudge against a 5-year-old. Would that make me an a-hole? Should I just decline Jonah's invite? I think the birthday rule is silly and it's her choice who she invites, but this is just ridiculous. Honestly, OP, no, you would not be the a-hole at all, but not just to ask why your son wasn't invited. It's clear that this woman is doing it out of spite. I would call her out and tell her she's an idiot. Well, maybe not in those words exactly, because it sounds like the kind of person who would make a fuss about anything, but I would definitely call her to make her feel really bad. Maybe some passive aggressiveness her way wouldn't be so bad. Like shaming her a little bit for actually doing this to a 5-year-old. Like honestly, she says you need to nip this behavior in the bud because your son can't read at 5 years old. How about she gets over it and goes practice how to lock bathroom doors? Because none of this would have happened and she actually knew how to use her fingers and rotate. Or press a button, depending on the handle. Now, regarding that birthday rule, I absolutely agree with you. It should be on the parents who you get to invite or not. You don't have to invite the whole class, because yeah, not every kid is a friend of your kids, I get that. But another solution could be malicious compliance. You don't necessarily need to like the rule, but you can definitely go and enforce it and say, hey, how come my kid is not invited? You have to invite everybody. Just saying, like a last resort. Anyways, what do you guys think about this whole situation? How would you deal with it if it happened to you and your kids? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Nervous Routine 870 says, not the a-hole. I think the friend's mom is being overly dramatic and petty about the whole situation. I think given all the factors, like no pictures, he's 5 years old, etc., are enough to show that the bathroom incident was a simple mistake that could have happened to any kid in similar circumstances. The initial conversation with the mom, where she said you have to punish your son, seemed weird to me. Had the girl only been friends with one of your sons, maybe the party invite would have been more understandable. But here it seems the girl is friends with both of your sons, and the party invite was just the mom being ultra petty about the bathroom incident. And Opie responds, yeah, I genuinely believe if it was anyone else's kid, she wouldn't care, but I'm the youngest mom there and her little group always feel the need to tell me that I'm doing everything wrong since they're more experienced parents than me. Like, she's just been waiting for my kid to do one thing wrong to prove that I'm irresponsible and couldn't ever possibly teach my kids manners. Not your mother says, not the a-hole. On the day of the party, take your boys to an adventure park or movie, something special for the two of them. Have a conversation with them about how some adults make bad choices and that we are going to make good choices and be kind even when someone is unkind to us. As for the mom, decline the invitation. There will be many more years of interactions with these kids. When things calm down, you might be able to take her aside and have a conversation with her about it. But you're the only one who can feel it out to know if that makes sense. Inner Doubt 1660 says, not the a-hole, but don't call this woman. She is getting off on bullying a little boy and his mother because he made a very common mistake a lot of children make. Seriously though, do not call her. She obviously doesn't care that she is bullying a 5-year-old. She wanted to punish a 5-year-old for walking into the bathroom and then fleeing. To me, she thinks her behavior is justified, most likely because she doesn't think you punished him enough, so now she is trying to do it herself. Don't let one twin go and not the other. Tell them that the girl's mom is being mean to them both because she only wants one to go. Instead, take them out the day of the party. Go to a fun place they enjoy or take them to the park or to get pizza. The only thing talking to this woman will do is take years of your life and put you in the same bracket as her. Love Boobs in the M, subtle, says, normally I'd go with the person whose birthday it is to get to decide who to invite, but this time I think it's fairly reasonable to ask why one of the twins weren't invited. Passive aggressiveness towards a 5-year-old is never okay. You would not be the a-hole. Also, is it really normal for 5-year-olds to know how to read? NYC Garbage Floozy says, not the a-hole, but I wouldn't bother. You know why he wasn't invited, and while it's cruel to exclude him for something he did by accident, don't escalate it further. Decline the invite and just let it be. I think it would be even more uncomfortable for the kids involved since it seems like this lady is already involving her daughter by forcing her to leave out one twin. Additional information from Opie's comments. I don't really feel like talking to the school. I think the whole everyone needs to be invited rule is nonsense, but I think it is crazy to invite one twin and not the other. I don't know if their teacher knew why he was sad, but he didn't tell her, so it's not her fault. Still, there's one class per grade, but it has like 30-something kids. Jude is the only kid in class who is not invited. Now, I think one of the kids in the whole class being excluded is bad, but I don't think it needs to be a school rule, especially since there are more than 30 kids in the class. So the plan right now is to call her, ask her why Jude was left out, then decline the invite. Maybe I'll send a gift to the little girl since it isn't her fault and we have nothing against her daughter. She's adorable. She also lives at her dad's during the week, which is probably where she gets her sweetness. Alright, well, the majority of the community was trying to encourage OP to take the high road and just let it sit and do something with the kids instead. I can see that being a better solution, of course, to take the high road, but I just don't like people like Jess, so yeah, I'd probably do something petty. Or I'd probably talk about doing something petty and my wife would want to take the high road, so yeah, I'd follow with that as well. Anyways, it's time to move on to the update to see how this story ends, but if you're enjoying this video so far, don't be shy and go ahead and click that like button, maybe even write a comment, an emoji if you like, that's absolutely fine too. As I've said before, anything helps. Now let's move on to that update. Hi everyone, thank you to everyone who responded to my last post. I tried my best to reply or at least upvote every comment. I was happy to hear that I wasn't the a-hole, but as far as advice went, I got a lot of mixed feedback. Some were telling me to call Jess out, some are telling me there's nothing I can do, and some told me to host a party on the same day and invite all the kids in their class. I decided to contact our rabbi, whose wife is also the assistant principal of their school. They said that they think talking with Jess and having a sit-down conversation is the best way to go. On Saturday, they asked Jess to stay after services to have a talk. It was the rabbi, his wife, me, my wife, Jess, and her ex. The rabbi's wife explained that school policy says that you can invite either less than half of the class or the entire class, and Jude was the only child not invited. As I've said, I dislike the rule. I was honestly against having the rabbi's wife there at first, but my wife convinced me. I didn't really want an invite to the party. I just wanted to talk about why she was so against him coming. Moving on. Jess replied that Jude was horribly ill-mannered, and that's why she didn't want him at the party. We all were curious to know if she had any other instances of his bad manners, and she started listing that he likes running around and jumping off things. Typical 5-year-old behavior. It was honestly comedic, since anyone who spent any time with them two knows Jonah is by far the crazy one. And I'm just saying, it was a weird justification for her inviting Jonah but not Jude. Jonah's the one that's loud and likes running around. Jude usually likes to play with his action figures, and that's it. But anyway, she couldn't come up with any real examples of his bad behavior other than the bathroom incident, which she had horribly exaggerated since the last time we talked about it. The rabbi's wife said that the only way this could be a valid reason for the school board was if she filed a complaint with the synagogue and the school, and then they would both investigate. So she caved and said they both could come, and we said we would decide if we wanted to. Her ex came up to us as we were leaving after not saying anything the whole meeting. He said not to come to the birthday party since Jess is going to be a momzilla and probably be an a-hole the whole time. Yeah, that man knows what's up. We organized a playdate for a few days after the party was planned at his house, and he ensured the boys would get goodie bags and cake. Clearly, the most important things. Anyway, good news all around. The boys are pretty much over it, and they think we're being drama queens. Anyways, thanks Reddit. Alright OP, well I'm gonna call this a particularly happy update because not only are your boys gonna get goodie bags and cake, which is the most important of things, but also they're not hurt, they're friends with the little girl, and now we all know that Jess is just a see you next Sabbath, if you know what I mean. So here's wishing you the best in the future OP, thank you so much for sharing and take care. And now let's move on to the next post that is also updated. And this post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole with an H? And it's by user Lyrically Me. Am I the a-hole 27 female for not wanting to share my final notes with my nursing classmates? Hey all, I'm in an accelerated nursing program. We are set to graduate actually this week, but I'm not doing too well in my med-surg class, and I most likely will not be graduating until April if I have to retake this class. Now, basically, for the entire year, there are a few classmates of mine, one in particular, who always asked me to send her my notes for some of our classes to study before an exam. I take a lot of time creating these notes, reading the textbook, watching videos, resending the professor's lectures. At first, I did not mind sending them until I realized that the majority of my classmates had my notes. The one girl I sent my notes to was sending them to other people. Before our last exam, I looked over at a classmate who I did not send my notes to, and she had them printed out, studying from them before the exam. Now, I don't mind sharing my notes because I felt as if we were all working together to pass. That is until I started failing med-surg. I guess there are tips and tricks and resources online that the class has found, and they're just not shared with everyone. So I feel like I've been helping so many people and I've asked for help, but haven't received it. No one owes me anything, and I understand why people don't like to share the resources they have because they might get in trouble or they worry the professor might find out and change the exams, but I feel bitter now. We have a final tomorrow, and several people have been asking me to send them my notes for our pediatric final. I just don't want to send them because I feel like I've been helping them all year, and when I needed help, no one responded. People have literally told me they are only passing the class because of my notes. Am I the a-hole for not sharing my notes on the final? Well, OP, in short, no, you wouldn't be the a-hole. They are your notes. You don't owe them to anybody, just like nobody owes you anything else, just like you stated. However, it sucks that you were really nice to this person and this person was sharing them with everybody, but when it's time to help you out, nobody stepped up. So yeah, absolutely not the a-hole if you decide not to share them. And if they fail because of it, well, it's on them. They should have studied harder or made their own notes. Or they should have been nicer to you, not just because they were interested in your notes, but I think you saw it as a team and they just saw you as a resource. And what do you guys think about OP's situation? What is your judgment? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Llama No Drama says, not the a-hole. Nobody's entitled to your notes, and if there are resources that aren't being shared, then there's no benefit to you. Good luck on your exams. C&T Honest Partners says, why should you send them your notes? You asked for help and they didn't help you, so don't help them. That's on them. If they helped you, then you would have helped them. It seems to me they are taking advantage. Cbay21 says, been there and absolutely not the a-hole. You've been generous. The classmates you share your notes with have no right to share those notes with others. It's a very crappy thing to do. It's not their hard work to just give away. For this reason alone, I wouldn't share anymore. It would be one thing if you shared your notes with a person and they reciprocated with other resources they heard about or used throughout your coursework. But if you're getting nothing out of this, don't get in the habit of sharing. Once in a while is fine, especially if they had a tragedy in their life or something. Don't feel bad. I assure you they have their own notes and resources that they don't share but want to use your notes to make sure they have the extra you picked up on. And Seminole Rabbit says, not the a-hole. If I go in because my ankle is messed up, I wouldn't want to have a nurse who looks at my latissimus dorsi and says, you're fine. Alright, well, the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole, and we also got some physiological name dropping there. Cool. Anyways, let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. Hi all, so I believe it was yesterday that I posted on this group about how I'm currently failing my MedSurg 2 class, which I still am, lol. Our final for that class isn't until Thursday. There are a couple of girls who usually rely on me to send them my notes for our classes before exams, and I never had an issue until I realized that my notes were being sent to people whom I didn't send them to. Still, that didn't bother me until I reached out looking for help pertaining to our MedSurg class because everyone was passing except for me. So, to make it clear, these are two different classes. Our PEDS exams are pretty straightforward, and it also helps that our professor is a great lecturer who holds study sessions for those who are struggling with certain topics. Our MedSurg class is more critical thinking, less of what you actually know, you just need to know how to apply the information. Not to throw my professor under the bus, but half of our cohort is failing her class, which is a common trend for her class in particular. Most people passing have had to use resources like Quizlet or buy simple nursing packages and subscriptions to grasp the material because she doesn't teach too well. Now, I've always done well in pediatrics, which is the class in which I would share my notes. I am not doing well in MedSurg. The ladies I was sharing my notes with for pediatrics are doing well in MedSurg, and when I asked for studying tips for that class, since I was helping them with pediatrics, no one wanted to help. I just got very broad responses as to how they were studying and what resources they are using to get good grades. So, I decided not to share my notes this time around before our pediatrics final. It seems as if they were not reading or even studying for the class. They were only relying on my notes. We took our pediatrics final today and I got a 96. Congratulations. The group of girls who usually uses my notes to study failed, and 3 of them even got caught cheating using ChatGPT and are now dismissed from the program. We only have 2 more days until the semester is over, and we are supposed to be getting pinned for graduation. This final was worth 30% of our grade, and a few of them were already sitting at around 77%. Failing brought them down below 75, which is passing for my program. I kind of feel like the a-hole because I knew they relied on my notes, but I also don't feel bad because I asked for help and no one helped me. Well, OP, the fact that you kind of feel like an a-hole for not sharing something that you didn't have to share if you didn't want to just highlights that you actually are a good person. And if they had helped you out like you were helping them out, everybody would have benefited. But now you just gotta study real hard for your med-surg class, hopefully you pass it, and they got out of the program. Sucks to be them. Thanks for sharing, OP, and all the best in that exam. Take care. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out, so here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later, and also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.